Welcome to Karoline Now, where we expose the raw truth behind America's most explosive media confrontations. If you crave uncompromising analysis that cuts through the noise, hit subscribe now and join Cal Morgan's quest to decode the political firestorms shaping our nation. Your support fuels our mission to reveal what others dare not speak. The American Spotlight Studios lights burned with unforgiving intensity, not for entertainment tonight, but for a reckoning. In walked Karoline Leavitt, the youngest person ever to serve as White House press secretary, her calculated stride betraying nothing of the bombshell she carried. Her eyes, sharp as a prosecutor's, surveyed the battleground with cool precision. Across the stage, Trevor Noah reclined with practiced ease, the comedian's trademark smile a shield against whatever accusations might come. His fingers tapped restlessly against his armrest, the only sign that tonight's performance might veer from his carefully crafted script. Between them, Jack Harper, the veteran media ringmaster, leaned forward with predatory anticipation. The studio audience, sensing blood in the water, fell silent as he spoke. "Tonight we're not just witnessing a conversation," Harper announced, his voice resonating with theatrical gravity. "It's a clash between comedy and truth." The air crackled with tension, as Leavitt wasted no time on pleasantries. "For years," she declared, her voice steady and accusatory, "you've hidden behind your jokes, Mr. Noah. You're a manipulator hiding behind laughs while pushing an agenda funded by anti-conservative billionaires." Noah's smile tightened almost imperceptibly before he countered. "I'm just curious," he replied, eyebrows raised in mock innocence. "Did your script come from Hollywood or Mar-a-Lago? It's getting hard to tell the difference." The audience collectively inhaled. This was no ordinary political theater. The gloves were off before the first commercial break, two worlds colliding, entertainment and politics, each claiming to be the rightful guardian of truth in America's fractured landscape. What neither combatant acknowledged as they eyed each other across the studio's no man's land was how perfectly they embodied America's deepening divide, where facts are weapons, truth is tribal, and audiences arrive with their conclusions already formed, waiting only for the satisfaction of seeing their champion draw blood. The studio shook with thunderous applause and venomous boos, the audience already splintering along America's familiar fault lines. Karoline Leavitt sat upright, her posture battlefield-ready, eyes locked on Trevor Noah like a hunter who had tracked her prey for months. This was no impromptu confrontation, but a calculated strike. Noah maintained his trademark half-smile, that practiced expression of amused detachment, but his fingers betrayed him, tapping an anxious rhythm as he calibrated his response to the threat across from him. The comedian was playing chess while the cameras rolled. "Let's cut to the chase," Jack Harper interjected, his voice dripping with the manufactured urgency that fuels ratings. "Karoline, you've made some serious allegations about Trevor's work." Leavitt didn't hesitate. "Trevor Noah has weaponized The Daily Show, transforming comedy into a propaganda machine," she declared, her words slicing through studio air. "Every joke, every segment, carefully engineered to smear President Trump while masquerading as innocent humor." She leaned forward, lowering her voice to a controlled intensity. "I have information that reveals who Noah really is, and who's pulling his strings." Noah's laughter erupted, too loud, too immediate. "Comedy doesn't need conspiracy theories," he countered, palms open in performance. "When someone tweets policy at 3 a.m. or suggests injecting bleach, the jokes practically write themselves." The audience exploded. Conservative and liberal Americas no longer sharing even physical space as they hurled support and derision across the studio. "You fire sugar-coated bullets at specific targets," Leavitt pressed, undeterred by the chaos. "I'm here to strip that coating off and show America what you're really doing." The temperature in the studio spiked as Noah's smile finally faltered. "By all means," he challenged, defiance masking what might have been genuine concern. "Bring whatever information you think you have." Neither combatant blinked as the cameras zoomed in on their faces, two warriors representing America's ideological armies, each claiming to fight for truth, while serving vastly different versions of reality. The studio air thickened with anticipation as Karoline Leavitt rose from her seat, documents clutched in her hand like a prosecuting attorney approaching the bench. Under the merciless studio lights, papers seemed to glow with damning potential. This was the moment she had methodically engineered, the culmination of months tracking financial networks that few had bothered to investigate. Leavitt's voice sliced through the tension with surgical precision. Trevor Noah crowns himself the flag bearer of truth, but I have proof he's betrayed the audience's trust. The accusation hung in the air, electric and dangerous. She outlined her case with the confidence of someone who knew she had detonated an information bomb. For 3 years, she claimed, Noah had quietly collected $2.5 million. Funds funneled through a San Francisco nonprofit backed by billionaires united by a singular mission: destroying Trump's presidency through calculated comedy. Leavitt raised the documents overhead, a theatrical gesture perfected during her White House tenure. "You call that humor?" she demanded, voice ringing with righteous certainty. "Or did you turn your stage into a propaganda tool for cash?" The audience fractured instantly. Some leapt to their feet, pointing accusatory fingers at Noah while chanting, "Noah sold out." Others surged forward in his defense, voices raw with emotion as they shouted, "Leavitt's lying!" America's division manifested in physical form, 2 tribes separated not by geography but by perception. Noah stood, his practiced composure cracking slightly at the edges. The microphone in his hand registered the faintest tremor, a detail caught by cameras but missed by most. "These documents are fabricated," he fired back, indignation rising in his voice. "The Daily Show is funded by Comedy Central, not shadowy billionaires pushing agendas." But something had shifted. The mere suggestion that comedy could be compromised, could be purchased like any other commodity, had planted seeds of doubt. In the crucible of that studio, beneath the unflinching gaze of competing cameras, 2 versions of reality collided with explosive force, leaving the audience to determine which narrative they would choose to believe. The confrontation between media titans escalated into a high-stakes game of evidence and denial. Leavitt, sensing Noah's vulnerability, pressed her advantage with surgical precision, her posture radiating the confidence of someone holding a royal flush. "I have an email," she declared, "from your own executive producer stating we need to ramp up anti-Trump content to keep young viewers." Her words landed like calculated artillery fire. "And a contract with your signature proving exactly what you're denying." The studio audience erupted, a microcosm of America's divided soul. "Read it all, Karoline," someone shouted from the crowd, the mistaken name revealing the beautiful chaos of live television. Noah leaned forward, the studio lights catching the tension in his jaw. His voice, when it came, carried the quiet danger of a man cornered but far from defeated. "If you've got emails, read them. If you've got a contract, show the nation." His eyes narrowed, his warning unmistakable. "But I'll warn you, forging documents on live TV is a one-way ticket to ruin." Defending his career with measured intensity, Noah insisted every punchline was anchored in truth, not partisan calculation. The accusation had transformed him from comedian to combatant in an instant. Leavitt's smile in response was that of a chess master watching an opponent's predictable defense. She raised the stakes with devastating precision. "Beyond documents, I have a video from behind the scenes of The Daily Show where you say clearly, we need to target Trump to keep ratings." Her voice dropped to a near whisper. "What do you call that? Comedy or dirty business?" Jack Harper, recognizing ratings gold unfolding before him, seized the moment with practiced timing. "Karoline, if you've got a video," he interjected, hand raised for dramatic effect. "Millions of viewers are waiting." In that electric moment, truth itself seemed suspended between them, a contested territory neither would surrender. What had begun as entertainment had transformed into information warfare, with an audience hanging on every word, every gesture, every unspoken implication. The studio air thickened like a gathering storm as Leavitt's bombshell claim about video evidence transformed the atmosphere. No longer mere television, this had become a gladiatorial arena where careers and reputations hung in precarious balance. Trevor Noah stood with practiced poise, a man unaccustomed to playing defense, his eyes reflecting not fear but something more dangerous, resolve hardened in the fire of unexpected challenge. Across the divide, Leavitt sat with the cold, calculated smile of a prosecutor who had saved her most damning evidence for the perfect moment. Harper, sensing the ratings bonanza unfolding before him, leaned into the tension like a conductor before his masterpiece. "Trevor, you bring numbers, but Karoline has documents, emails, and a video. The audience is waiting to see if she's right." His tone carried the false neutrality of a man deliberately pouring gasoline on flames. Leavitt pressed her advantage with the patience of a predator, her voice unnervingly calm, yet edged with triumph. "Trevor can deny it, but the truth doesn't need his approval. The video is real, and I'll play it when the time's right." She pivoted with military precision to open another front. And why is it that after leaving The Daily Show, you've refused every public political debate? What are you hiding? The audience had transformed from spectators to participants, some raising phones to capture what might become historic footage, others shouting support for their champion. America's cultural division personified in 200 beating hearts. Noah's composure finally cracked, his voice carrying the tremor of controlled fury and profound disappointment. If you have a video, play it. If not, stop this game because the audience deserves better. His words hung suspended, a challenge and a plea intertwined. In that electric moment, what mattered wasn't whether the video existed, but that millions believed it might. This was modern America's Coliseum, where truth had become secondary to allegiance, and evidence subordinate to accusation. The studio atmosphere crystallized into something primordial, raw power struggling against raw power. Leavitt's final challenge sliced through pretense like a blade through silk. Trevor, if you truly stand for truth, stay and face the video I'm about to reveal. Or are you afraid the audience will see you're no different from those you've mocked? Her words fell with the weight of execution orders. The audience froze, collective breaths suspended, as if witnessing a public execution of reputation itself. Noah rose suddenly, his practiced composure fracturing at the edges. The microphone in his hand trembled, not from fear, but barely contained fury. His voice, normally the controlled instrument of satire, now burned with wounded conviction. I'm not here to play word games in your media circus. In 7 years hosting The Daily Show, I made 1,200 episodes, calling out every politician, from Trump's 1,900 false claims to Biden's 450 dodges. The statistics flowed like armor being strapped on in public, each number a shield against accusation. His voice grew raw, stripped of comedic shelter but gaining something more dangerous, the edge of a man with nothing left to lose. I don't work for parties or crowds. I work to make the audience think. The declaration hung suspended, a grenade with its pin removed. Then Noah delivered his final verdict. I'm leaving, not because I lost, but because I won't sell myself out. The microphone hit the table with the finality of a judge's gavel. Noah's footsteps echoed like thunder as he strode off set. Not retreat, but defiance incarnate. The vacuum he left behind instantly filled with chaos. The audience fractured along America's familiar fault lines, some voices rising in desperate chants of, "Trevor, come back," while the MAGA contingent erupted with, "He gave up." Their competing narratives collided in mid-air, neither touching the truth that lay somewhere in the shadowed space between accusation and defense. Leavitt sat in the eye of the hurricane she'd summoned, neither victorious nor defeated, a perfect embodiment of modern political warfare, where the absence of resolution is the only guaranteed outcome. Noah's empty chair became America's newest cultural battleground. Within 15 minutes of his dramatic exit, the digital landscape ignited #NoahWalksOut and #LeavittTriumph, surging past NFL playoffs and celebrity scandals to claim global trending dominance. The confrontation, like a match dropped in gasoline, exploded across America's divided consciousness. The nation split along its familiar scar tissue. Fox News anchors declared Leavitt's performance a "historic showdown," with breathless coverage painting her as the voice of truth, standing tall while Noah fled like a coward under questioning. Meanwhile, CNN panels assembled their counter-narrative with military precision. Noah transformed into a symbol of principle who refused to play Leavitt's slander game. Late-night television became the war's theater of operations. Jimmy Kimmel unveiled a digitally altered Leavitt as a Roman gladiator, wielding a microphone, dripping with blood. Not to be outdone, Stephen Colbert aired a stylized sunset silhouette of Noah departing the studio, a Christ-like figure captioned, "A hero doesn't need a stage." Even distant shores joined the fray. The Cape Times in South Africa claimed their native son as a victim of toxic American politics, while London's papers dismissed the entire spectacle as classic American TV melodrama, a cultural bloodsport constructed for ratings rather than revelation. Yet what remained most remarkable was what remained unseen. Leavitt's alleged evidence never materialized on screen, while Noah's chair sat empty, his defense abandoned mid-construction. Two champions claimed victory without completing the battle, leaving their respective tribes to celebrate hollow triumphs based not on what they witnessed, but what they already believed. In this perfect storm of performative outrage, truth became the first and final casualty, A quiet corpse buried beneath an avalanche of certainty without evidence, conviction without verification, and loyalty without limits. While America raged over symbolism, real humans counted the cost behind closed doors. In a cluttered production office, producer Sarah's fingers trembled over her keyboard, the blue light of her screen illuminating exhaustion carved into her face. 12 million viewers, a record-breaking triumph that tasted like ash as death threats mingled with congratulations in her overflowing inbox. Success had never felt so much like suffocation. 20 blocks away, Trevor Noah sat alone in his darkened apartment, the soft glow of his phone casting shadows across features usually animated for audiences. Messages flooded in from former Daily Show colleagues: "You did the right thing, stand your ground." Yet their digital reassurance only amplified the silence surrounding him. The man who commanded laughter from millions now faced a stranger in his own reflection, a performer who had perhaps lost sight of where the persona ended and the person began. "Maybe it's time to step back," he whispered to no one, contemplating a retreat from the spotlight that had defined him. Meanwhile in Washington, Karoline Leavitt's key turned in her front door, with the sound of vindication. Her husband Nicholas enveloped her in an embrace that felt like homecoming. "You made the whole country listen," he murmured into her hair. In his arms, she felt not just personal triumph, but a conviction that she'd channeled the voice of millions who felt perpetually unheard, perpetually mocked by the Noahs of the media landscape. Two human beings, separated by geography, ideology, and now a chasm of mutual resentment, each collapsed into their private aftermath. Neither could see the other's humanity through the fog of tribal warfare. Neither recognized how thoroughly they had been transformed into avatars in America's ongoing psychodrama. The ratings soared while empathy flatlined. The clips went viral while understanding withered. And in living rooms across the nation, Americans who never questioned the authenticity of what they'd witnessed cheered for their chosen champion, never once demanding to see the evidence both sides claimed would validate their righteousness. The truth lay unclaimed between them, an orphan casualty on the battlefield of American discourse, while millions applauded shadows dancing on the wall, mistaking them for reality. The embers of confrontation had cooled, but America's political landscape remained forever altered. The smoke cleared to reveal two figures transformed, no longer mere participants in a talk show skirmish, but symbols in a divided nation's ongoing mythology. Karoline Leavitt stood before a forest of microphones, sunlight catching the determined glint in her eyes. "The battle on American spotlight wasn't about me or any individual," she declared, her voice steady as bedrock. "It was about defending millions of Americans from distorted narratives." The cameras captured a woman transformed, no longer just a former White House press secretary, but a phoenix rising from the ashes of controversy, her wings spread wide over a movement that had found its new standard-bearer. Meanwhile, Noah's conspicuous absence had become something more powerful than his presence could have been. His empty chair metamorphosed into a Rorschach test for a polarized America, each side seeing exactly what they needed to see. In conservative circles, that vacant seat became evidence of liberal retreat when confronted with uncomfortable truths. In progressive gatherings, it represented principled resistance against character assassination. Across the digital landscape, parallel conversations unfolded in hermetically sealed echo chambers. At Columbia University, students huddled in earnest circles, framing Noah as a symbol of resistance against right-wing propaganda. 2,000 miles away in Texas, conservative gatherings hailed Leavitt as a flame of truth in a darkened media landscape, launching fundraisers that bore her name like a battle standard. The geological fault between these narratives widened, with American spotlight standing at its epicenter, a television moment that had become a microcosm of an era where even the concept of truth itself had become partisan territory. The evidence Leavitt claimed to possess remained unseen, yet millions believed in its existence with religious certainty. Noah's rationale for his absence remained unexplained, yet his supporters defended it with unwavering conviction. In living rooms across America, citizens stared at screens that increasingly reflected not reality, but curated versions of it that confirmed what they already believed. The confrontation had changed nothing and everything, hardening divisions while creating new icons for worship in America's political pantheon. The truth, that elusive quarry so often invoked yet rarely captured, slipped away unnoticed, while the spectacle it left in its wake continued to enthrall a nation more interested in performance than substance, in victory than understanding. When truth becomes a casualty of political warfare, everyone loses. Noah's empty chair and Leavitt's alleged evidence, never actually shown, represent the hollow core of modern political discourse. Both figures claimed to champion truth while serving their respective tribes, leaving audiences to choose sides based not on facts but on pre-existing loyalties. In today's America, as Cal Morgan observes, we've lost the ability to distinguish between genuine confrontation and calculated performance. Until we demand evidence before celebration, verification before viral sharing, we remain willing participants in our own manipulation, cheering shadows on the wall while reality slips quietly away. The true power lies not with those who speak loudest, but with citizens who refuse to confuse conviction for truth.